What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome back to the Hope Shot Live. Tonight we have our Addiction to Success. I am Justin, you know Johnny, and we have our guest is going to be Dylan B. He's going to be sharing his story tonight. Pretty excited, man. It's always cool to have fresh new stories coming in here. If you guys are just jumping on, let us know you're here. Say what's up. Also, you guys know the drill. If you guys could share this, please. Look, already they know the drill, bro. They understand the assignment. Is that how that goes? If you guys are sharing this, please put it in the comments. Let us know you're sharing so we can highlight you to show your support. We appreciate you guys so much. Also, I'm going to read the clarity statement real quick. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not prepared. I don't understand the assignment. Let's see. Hope Shot clarity statement. Here it is. We here at the Hope Shot are a group of people in recovery spreading inspiration. We come from all different walks of life and pathways of recovery. Our verbiage may be different at times, but we all have one thing in common: recovery as a lifestyle. We support all pathways of recovery. It doesn't matter how you get from A to Z, just get there. Thank you for being a part of our family. And we really mean that. So I'm going to pass it over to Johnny. Again, if you guys could share, please support. We appreciate you guys. So Johnny.
Hey family, what's up? I'm Johnny. So I also wanted to share, you were just sharing about, and I was thinking about this earlier today, but if you would kindly go over to our YouTube page and subscribe to that. We're trying to build up our subscribers there. We started there. We really didn't take off. Once we moved to Facebook, we exploded. And we're working on building the YouTube back up. So if you could do that, go over and subscribe and like, we would love you for that. And so Dylan, Dylan is a dear friend of mine. I met Dylan 10 years ago. I was 36 years old when I got the treatment, and Dylan was 21. And that was when I first came to Ocala, and me and Dylan actually vibed, because emotionally I was like a 20-year-old anyway when I got the treatment. But we became really close, man. And, he was like a little brother to me, and we got to go through treatment together and experience a lot of cool things together and grow together. And really, at that time in my life, it was the first time that I really put forth any energy into trying to get recovery. It wasn't the last time, but, I've known him for 10 years now. I've watched him do well. I've watched him struggle. He's got an amazing mom. And, he's been through it, and he's made it to the other side, and he's got an amazing story. So I'm going to pass it over to Dylan.
Thanks, Johnny. We met in rehab, and I've known you a long time. I've known you long enough to where you still owe me money from before your clean date. So if that says anything about how well I know you, I'll kind of leave it at that. So anyway, I'm my name is Dylan. I'm 31. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm from Ocala. I moved here to St. Pete about 8 years ago. I'll my story, there's a lot of repeating patterns, and I won't go into everything, but people talk about predisposition to this thing, and man, I was really predisposed. I mean, my first memories were being taken to an ABC liquor store by my dad when I was like 3 or 4 years old, being woken up, being told that my dad was in a car crash. It was actually a DUI crash. Addiction, alcoholism, all that have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I've been going to AA meetings since I was about 5 years old, 6 years old, Al-Anon meetings, everything. Both my mom and my dad would bring me to those. I grew up in Ocala. If you know it, it's a bit smaller. I grew up in a private Christian school that was a lot smaller. My dad was the music teacher, so I got to go there for free. So I grew up around a lot of kids that were a lot wealthier than my family was. thought differently about things. So there was a real concrete difference there. It went beyond me just feeling different. I was also a teacher's kid. So all the teachers knew me, all the students knew me by my dad's behavior, which was less than stellar. So there was kind of always that predisposition about who I was because of who he was. My world was really small. It was just those kids and those teachers at that school. So I lived with a lot of shame growing up. I would get picked on by the kids because of my dad and his behavior. So I learned at a young age to make myself be small, go unnoticed, just be quiet, be laid back, and then no one will bother you, hopefully. And I took that, that's one of the many behaviors I learned when I was a kid that I've taken into my adult life, even now. So fast forward a little bit, parents get divorced when I was 13. And that's when I moved over to the public school system, which was a huge culture shock for me. I didn't really know anyone there at all. And instantly I just became super isolated. My first addiction was, video games and just hiding in my room. That's all I did for the first 2 years of high school. I wouldn't even go to the lunchroom. I would just sit out on the courtyard playing Tetris on my flip phone. And I just did that every day. I didn't really want to participate. I always found that I enjoyed life more thinking about it than actually participating in it. I have a pretty active mind. I'm a pretty obsessive person. So I definitely thought about life more at that time than I did actually participating in it. So there was a lot of built-in social anxiety, depression, right from the very get-go. So, I was always a good kid. I always got good grades. Teachers always liked me. People's parents always liked me. And I could just kind of, stay under the radar. But when I got to be about 16 years old, things started changing a little bit. I got a car. I had met some people through my time in high school, and I had some friends come over from private school, and they had just started getting into smoking weed and drinking. So naturally, I do that. There wasn't like this aha moment of, yes, I found my solution. It was just, man, like, I like this. I'm having fun. It was a good way to meet new people. It was a good way to get out of myself. And really, I didn't grow at all. I didn't learn how to be comfortable with myself at all in high school. So when I was about 17 or 18, back then, pill mills were just everywhere. This was 2009. So this was about 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Oxys, Xanax, whatever, was sold openly at my school. It was extremely cheap. So anyone could get their hands on it. It was at parties all the time. So instantly I got into that stuff. I was always a downers guy because my anxiety, that was just a natural way for me to deal with it. And then I got involved with kids that were more, they had dropped out of school or gotten arrested already. And I just naturally felt like I belonged with them. I felt like I was an outcast, kind of always just sitting on the outside looking in. So I fell in with that crowd, and, I felt good about myself. But, things really escalated for me extremely quickly. I had really good grades in high school. I had, a bright future scholarship. I had a Florida prepaid plan. So I was set, but I wasn't ready for any of that. I didn't want any of that. I had no ambition in my life. I couldn't really see myself past, 20 at that point. So I decided to stay back home and just try to go to school locally. And, instantly before the summer after high school was even over, I was already strung out on pills. Um, Gosh, at that point, I had already done, acid, crack, cocaine, heroin, whatever. I had done it by then, and I was okay with that. I knew from a pretty young age that I was an addict or alcoholic or whatever. I had just kind of really accepted that about myself, but I didn't really care. Again, I had no vision for my life or anything. So at 19 is my first run-in with the law. I got arrested with drug possession, felony drug possession, and then this just kicked off. God, such a long chain of events for me. It really, like, it was probably the one single event that changed my life the most, because I was stuck in Ocala. I was put on drug court. I had all these rules and all these things put on me, but I just acted like none of that stuff really even happened. I was gonna get high no matter what. So I go in drug court, and within a few months, I'm in jail again for Christmas. And then Thanksgiving, I keep screwing up over and over. I'm doing pills this whole time. I made money back then by driving from Ocala to Tampa or wherever, taking people doctor shopping to get pills. I'm sure people out there, they experience that too. That's what I did all week. I just drove people to doctors' offices and, made my way by doing that. And I thought that was okay. I was okay with that. I had no problem doing what I was doing. But eventually, the consequences did catch up with me. And, my first rehab was when I was 19. By this time I had already went from snorting to injecting my drugs. I started injecting when I was about 18, 19 years old. And I just instantly fell in love with that. And I even, was thinking at that time, it's like, man, I really progressed in this thing really quick. But again, I was okay with that. I didn't see my life going anywhere. I just figured it would end sometime in my 20s, and that was fine with me. I didn't really care. So I started getting thrown in rehabs. Over that time from when I was 19 to, almost a couple years ago, I've been clean about 19 months now. I've been to rehab 7 times, jail countless times. I probably spent 2 years of my life either incarcerated or in some type of rehab or program. And, none of it really, it was just me trying to get away from consequences. I always did really well in rehab. I always had the right thing to say. I always did well in my assignments. People always liked me. But none of it really changed what I wanted to do. My mom, my dad, my friends, whoever just, tried speaking to me, tried counseling me, went through so many therapists, but, that's not what I wanted to do. I had been exposed to AA when I was younger, like I said. So I know people out there have had experiences with all different types of avenues when it comes to recovery. And I always had a bone to pick with AA, always. Maybe I still even do today. I don't know. But I had just seen my dad and other people get thrown into that. And I never saw good results, even when my dad was sober. I think he had 7 years of sobriety at some point. I didn't know, like, he was still acting in a certain way that was just, to me, not appealing in any way. So the whole time I was pushed into rehab, it was always 12-step based. And, there's nothing wrong with 12-step or anything. I still go to them. I'm a supporter of that program. I want to make that clear. But me being the defiant kid I was, I just said no immediately. I thought it was dogmatic. I thought it was outdated. I thought it wasn't backed by science. I thought a lot of the old timers in there were fucked up hypocrites. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the people. I've always had a hard time being around big crowds of people and fitting into communities. So I just didn't want that. I did not want the same things those people did for a long time, most of my life. Most of my experience in AA, I didn't want what any of them had because I wasn't really ready to quit yet. So kind of going on later in my 20s, I've had some really strange experiences. I got caught up. I went to a Scientology-based rehab for a month. I got to be careful. I know we're, near Clearwater, so I really have to be careful what I say about that. But that was interesting. I don't recommend it. It's not my thing. Hey, if it's for you, congratulations. But for me, it wasn't my thing. I've been to AA work camps where, you live out in the swamps of Georgia for 6 months and work, and, you read the big book every day. I did that. I've been to like really swanky places. I've done it all. And really they were just all pit stops for me. Met a lot of great people like Johnny and countless others over the years. I know a lot of those people are dead now. I've forged some really tight bonds, but for me, they were just kind of consequences that got in my way. That's all they were. I'm not in favor of forcing someone to go to treatment if they don't want to be there. I guess for me though, one thing that they did do is they did plant seeds over time for me. But really, I never wanted to be sober. I think it was, I think the biggest turning point for me was probably when I was 25 or 26. I had, 6 or 7 months sober. I had just gone through a really, really hardcore program. And, for 6 months, this was a long rehab. I didn't get to leave that place only but a couple of times. I was out in the middle of nowhere. And I really thought I had turned a corner in my life at this point. But, within 30 days, I started, like, the first thing I did was I smoked crack the first time. And I don't really even like uppers or things like that, but that was the first thing I did. I have no idea why. And then I just started going back to the heroin, the pills, whatever. So having good intentions and wanting to be sober, but still failing like that, that's when I knew I was like, man, this isn't good, because even if I want to be, there's still something else that's pulling me back. That was honestly the first time I had ever wanted to be sober, when I was about 25. So I get out and I don't think I make it 5 months on my own. I'm back to, shooting pills again. At this point, most of the pill mills had been shut down, and fentanyl was now the next thing. I never really had too much experience with that, but, I had a couple close calls myself. It was so strong that the drugs I like to do, the Dilaudids, the Roxys, whatever, that stuff didn't even work anymore. And that was really scary for me. That's when I finally realized, man, there's really not a way out of this thing at all. So, in like 24 hours notice, my mom came and rescued me. I went back to rehab, I think, again for the 6th time at this point. And, at that point, I honest to God wanted to be sober. So I went to rehab for a couple months, then I moved to Asheville, North Carolina. And then I started a new life pretty much. I had a new outlook on sobriety and everything. I was going to do whatever it took. And I did that. I stayed in a halfway house. I went to meetings every day. I got plugged into the community. I got over my own ego. I always thought that, I was one of the smarter people in the room, but, I found as time went on, I'd been to rehab more than pretty much everyone in whatever rehab I was in. And I was slowly getting older. I was no longer the young kid anymore. I was the guy that kept fucking up. And I'm the guy talking to the 18-year-olds being like, hey man, you don't want to do this. So yeah, I really kind of laid down the weapons. And I started doing what I was supposed to do for a while. One of the things I didn't follow is I did get into a relationship at about 8 months sober. Someone who is very well put together, responsible, pretty well grounded. And it worked. We stayed together for a long time, but that wasn't me going to any lengths possible. That was me still, in AA, they talk about taking half measures and things like that. That was just another concession that I made for my own selfish reasons, I think. And I remember, I picked up a year. I had never gotten a year, but I had never gotten anywhere close to a year. I think I was 27 years old. It's the first time I ever had a year sober, and I felt really good then. I felt like I was finally doing the right thing. I had never had that much time before. But slowly I started getting away from that community, and I started acting out in ways like I did when I was still getting high. I think my biggest struggles in life were been the times where I wasn't using, because I didn't have anything to numb my conscience for the way I was treating people, the two lives that I was living. I always said one thing to one person and did another. I was extremely two-faced, and I was not at peace with myself. I still had a lot of unresolved anxieties, traumas, depression, all sorts of things from, the life I had used to live. And I just flat out ignored that. I thought that, I had gotten to this point where I wanted to be sober, and wanting to be sober was enough. But it wasn't enough. I think it was I'd gotten 2 years. I actually made it to 2 years, and really I was more miserable than I'd been in a very long time. I was just like, man, this is bullshit. Like, this sobriety thing, really, honest to God, is not that cool. I just felt like I really had nowhere else to go anymore. Sobriety, I couldn't stand myself sober anymore. And I couldn't stand using either. So I was just really in this really strange place in my life where I felt so trapped. So that's when I started doing things like Kratom. I got addicted to that right off rip. I had heard people always talk about that stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But, I started using that in extreme ways immediately to get that feeling, but without actually going to a dope dealer and, injecting drugs. This was the way that I could maybe survive a little bit longer with that on my conscience. So I started doing that. Started smoking pot, and I hid that from everyone. And I mean everyone. No one knew what I was doing. I stopped going to meetings anymore, though, because I couldn't sit there and say that I was sober when I wasn't. I just would rather not have the conversation. So I just bowed out completely. There was a lot of shame in that. So it's the end of 2019. I'd been with my girlfriend at the time for a little over 2 years. We were living in Asheville, and we both kind of wanted something different. So I showed her around St. Pete. She loved it. So we decided to move here beginning of 2020. And, as we all know, the pandemic hit then. By this point, I had been, casually drinking, and I had convinced her it was okay that I drank. I met her when I was sober. And, I manipulated her into thinking it was okay for me to do that. I got pretty good at working people for sure. So we were living actually right in this very, very house right here, doing the same things every day. I was drinking, getting high, on pot, thinking that was okay. But again, more miserable than I could ever remember. So some life events happened in the summer of 2020 that just kind of, pushed me over the edge. And this time, like, I was using with the intention of, I don't know, flat out killing myself, but I knew that I was just ready to kind of enter oblivion and just, whatever. So I didn't really know that many people here. So, I used my resources and I got on the dark web and I started ordering just, all types of different shit, heroin, Xanax, whatever. And, I thought that was it, man. I thought I had tried the sober way of life. I didn't think it was all that cracked up to be. I was still miserable then. And I was still miserable using drugs. So I just thought, man, I might as well be high. Like, I would rather not be miserable sober. I would rather be miserable and be high. So that's what I did. I intentionally made that choice. So that actually ended up being probably the shortest, most intense run of my life. I was a pretty experienced user at this point in my life. I've been doing it a long time. So it didn't take me long to far exceed what I had ever done before. And, my girlfriend at the time, she had to see this. She had never been exposed to anything like this before. And I had really hurt a lot of people because so many people along the way have helped me, family, friends, in, more ways than just financially, emotionally. And I had just really hurt a lot of people, and I felt that. I remember I was sitting right here actually, and, I was more blasted on drugs than I could remember, but I just remember being like, man, I just don't want this anymore. Like, I think most of my life, I had just wanted to absolve myself from consequences and the bad feelings that came along with drugs. That's all I ever wanted. I just wanted that stuff to go away. It really wasn't until that moment that I actually wanted a better life for myself. And to actually live my way that showed myself some self-respect and gave myself a shot. All the other times were more of just avoiding some consequence or some negative. I was never really going towards any type of positive. So, my girlfriend at the time, she left. I was here alone. I think my mom called John actually, and got me a sober babysitter. And I was just, man, I was so angry that someone would just have the gall to do this to me, to think that I would need something like that. And he actually turned out to be a really cool guy. He let me use my drugs in peace. And, I actually had a very fun day with this guy. Super nice guy. I would love to be friends with him still. If you're out there, text me. Let's hang out. But, for the first time in my life, it's like, man, I actually want to be sober now. I actually want to do right by myself and by others. It wasn't, like a come to Jesus or God moment. I'd consider myself more of an agnostic, more on that later. But yeah, there was just this very clear moment of like, man, I actually want something good in my life for once. I had spent my life selling myself so short, um, throwing away all my gifts. I've always done really well in school. Um, and I just put it all to waste. I've always gotten along with people really well. And I'm just, I squandered all of that for so long. So I knew it was time to really move towards a positive, and I did that. I went to rehab in Portland, Maine. I found it all myself. I was really high, looking at rehabs, actually really excited, in a very cheerful mood, because I knew what I was doing is actually what I wanted to do. So I went, I came back. It was only a short time because of insurance reasons and what else. And I had already spent, at this point in my life, almost 2 years in rehabs. I don't want to say I knew it all, but I had heard just about everything that a therapist or, speaker at a meeting could have to say. I really hope I don't sound arrogant in saying that, but I had heard a lot. I knew the information. I was more than aware of what I needed to know. I just never applied any of it. So I came back. I even went to a halfway house for a month. I didn't have to, but I thought it would be a good transition. I lived with my girlfriend at the time, so I thought it would be good for both of us. So I stayed sober, and I went to meetings. I got a sponsor. I still have that sponsor. I worked the steps. I actually browsed a lot of forums on the internet, like Reddit. Reddit has a lot of really cool sober communities out there. If there's any Redditors on here, there's a lot of really cool ones that have been great resources to me, because I like to have conversations beyond just 12-step stuff, even though it's, kind of the foundation for me. But at the same time, everything wasn't all good. I had still had a lot of unresolved, things that I dealt with physically because of anxiety, because of my years of drug use. I destroyed my nervous system. So, I was on the fence about taking medications for a long time, but I decided to do that. And that really changed the game for me. It really helped me physically and mentally. Like I said, I have a very obsessed mind. I still do, almost a year and a half into it. And that really helped me a lot. I see a therapist too still. But everything in my life didn't fix itself. I had been with my girlfriend for about 4 years at this point, and that wasn't going well. I'd been, accused of using, and rightfully so. Most of my life was using drugs. I had built that reputation for myself. And I hadn't, but at the same time, I understood why she thought that. And I had to live with that, because that's the bet I made for myself all these years, and I had to lie in it. So, I went through a breakup of a relationship that had been, 4 years going, which overall was a really good relationship, really good. But it didn't work out. Even getting my life together and getting sober, it just wasn't right. So I went through that. I always thought that would end if, I had used drugs or whatever, but no, it ended when I was sober. I still have a long way to go, but, for me now, I can't say I go to meetings every week. However, I do keep sobriety in my mind every single day. I didn't realize how deep this thing really ran until, all the chaos that was erupting in my life when I was sober and doing the right thing. And how that part of my addiction really even came out stronger when I was sober. The way I treated people, the way I thought about people, um, um, what I thought about myself, the types of stuff I was consuming, with social media and stuff, all that stuff. And that's when I knew that, man, like I can never really let up on this thing. I've been sober, um, almost 19 months now. And the biggest learning lesson for me was having, almost a couple years and still fucking up. That was just a complete eye opener to me that, man, like, to me, the amount of time I haven't used just doesn't really mean anything if I'm still, um, not being a good faith person. And what I mean by that is, I wasn't being genuine. I didn't have good intentions. Um, you know, Even sober, I kept working people, getting over on them, manipulating them, being dishonest. Um, and that didn't feel good. And I didn't have drugs or anything to numb that anymore. Um, so now, now that I've been sober for a while, treating people, and myself is, top of list for me. Being honest with people as best I can. Yes, I do still lie. Um, but just, finally giving myself a chance, and using what I've learned in life, to connect with other people. I've always been really good at, meeting, just getting along with just about anyone in my life. So, um, the experiences I've had have really helped me connect with a lot of people for sure. Um, so yeah, I don't know, like, and that's the thing is I don't know a year from now where I'll be. I mean, my track record has shown that more likely I will use than stay sober. That's what history tells me. I do, um, you know, uh, I analyze a lot of data in my job and I look at patterns. I look at past behaviors to look at the future. And, you know, the statistics show me that it doesn't look good. But I know that now. I was always very prideful. Um, I always thought I could outsmart it, but I mean, it's just who I am. I can't escape myself. Um, Now drugs, just like, man, my last relapse, I was miserable the first time I even used anything, and I didn't even enjoy it at all the first time I used. So now it's just like, man, I gotta figure this thing out, to be able to stand myself sober, because I know if I can, I'm not going to make it that much longer. I've already done a lot of damage to myself, and I'm getting older. So, yeah, it's really just more and about how I live. For me personally, it's not about how many meetings I go to, but it's more about connection. I was told, I'm going to wrap this up real soon, but I was told the opposite of addiction is connection. And for me, that's, getting outside myself, making new friends, even though I just kind of want to sit in the corner, go in and talk to someone, um, getting to know my coworkers, doing things like this. Um, going to experience things out in the community. I live in a really cool place. I do things now. I go to sporting events and just really being connected to the world, because I thought if I just disconnected myself from the world, that it wouldn't hurt me. That's what I learned when I was a kid. But I learned that I will be far more miserable disconnected from the world and watching it from the outside than living it. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dylan. And yeah, man, where you live, dude, you live in St. Pete, bro. That's like the core of stuff to do, being connected. You can do so much out there. Like that's the spot,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a super cool place. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story and getting vulnerable and talking about the struggles, because it's real. These struggles are real. Being sober, being in that misery, it's so quick to get like that, man, get complacent, and go back into the same cycles. You talk about the cycles, of your track record, the patterns, and that's something, going through this thing, we have to learn how to overcome, is breaking those patterns that keep us going back into the same, the slumps that we go into, the darkness that, that makes us want to use, I love that freaking phrase. The opposite of addiction is connection. I've used it multiple times on my speaking engagement I just did yesterday. You know what I mean? Because it's so true. Like we have to be connected, because we're so disconnected from everything in our lives, from people, from we just feel like life is just like we're giving up on it, because we just don't feel a part of anything. We want to go crawl in a hole. And some days I feel the exact same way, even doing this thing. But how, like you said, how do we get out of that? We get outside ourselves. We do something for somebody else. We do the opposite of what we want to do, I think that's super cool. I really want to dive into this whole solid Scientology rehab, but you're like, oh man, they're gonna like snipe me out from the corner.
We're near the headquarters, man. Like I gotta be careful.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll take questions.
It's a conversation for another day between us. I've already heard about it, though.
I mean, I've never heard anybody ever say I was in Scientology rehab. So that's like, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Oh, they exist, man. They exist. They are out there.
And then that's, you said before that you're more of a factual person, and that's like more of a Scientology deal too, isn't it? Aren't they more in science and factual stuff than anything?
I mean, it's factual in this guy's head who is a science fiction writer. So maybe it's true to him, but I think to most sane people, it's a science fiction novel. Hey, man, I saw some people really love it. Good for them. Good for them.
I mean, you can find that anywhere, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can find people in church and in AA and all of it. It's just what clicks. What clicks.
Yeah. And I still, I don't consider myself a religious person. I grew up in the church. Hell, I ran the projector for Saturday night church services. But I'll still go to church occasionally, just because I can hear a positive message. And I used to never be able to do that. But I see now how it's so intertwined, with the recovery principles and philosophies that it's helpful. And there's really nice people there. And again, it's community. So I don't say much. I don't say no to much anymore. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, usually, we don't. We say yes to almost everything. And sometimes we say yes too much. And that's the problem. That could become a problem too, I just want to shout out Nancy real quick, man. Day 7 for myself and day 11 for my fiance, and meth and Xanny free. Congratulations. I've seen a few people up in here that said they were exact same. We got Ginger that has 13 months meth free. We got Sarah says I'm working on 11 months for meth. You can do it. I promise this life is way more rewarding, and that's the truth.
I gotta just say something.
Okay.
The only reason why we're laughing is because Dylan's mom is the same name of the one who just said she's clean from meth and Xannies.
My mom, not a meth head. It's okay if she, it's fine. you know.
So I watched his reaction when he read it. That's the only reason why I was laughing.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for summing that up. I was like, what are you fucking laughing for? And we got Melissa saying ditto, she's 19 months. We have Amy says she's 19 months as well. Congratulations. Johnny, you wanna say something real quick to
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on here, man. I know, you are very factual about all that stuff, man. But being able to come on here and being honest, that's what we look for, man. It doesn't matter, like I found myself, just you touched on a lot of great stuff, man. You really did. That's the reality for us, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of the times, even with the 12 sub stuff, right? We kind of grew up in that, right?
Mhm.
So we don't understand any other way because it was force fed to us, right? And as I grow spiritually and move forward, and I love what you said again, like just being a good human, man. I was a dirtbag for so long, right? So at first and foremost, I have to learn how to be kind and communicate and show up in life like I had never shown up before. And that's today, what is the most important thing for me is the communication, the community, and it's all these things. I feel like a lot of the times you do it, I do it, and we've talked about it. We get hung up on the old ideal of in which the stuff we learned, and it tampers a lot of our growth because we're still hanging on both sides of, and that's why it's so important. Like you said, you go on Reddit, you do all these other things, and it's like, you've heard the expression, it doesn't matter what 12, but they say like the 12-step arena is like spiritual kindergarten. And that's where you learn the tools to open up and go. And then, after a couple of years of being able to navigate, you want to explore other things, and it's so important to be able to do that. Just like we do, Justin, we've taken, we've been certified to be recovery coaches. We do all this stuff. We broaden our horizon about what recovery is, how we can do it, how we can grow spiritually, and how we can be better humans, man. And I've just, we've talked a bunch, Dylan, over the last couple years, just in fragments, though, like when you were struggling. And I remember, and that was always a big thing you struggled with, man. But what you shared tonight is huge. I could just tell you, man, like your growth is extravagant, man. I love it.
And I just want to say, man, like I guess, my thing about AA, I said I had a bone to pick. I really don't. I guess I had these gripes over the years,
I got it. I totally got it.
The Captain AA guys, how dogmatic it was, how the same content was shared over and over. But that's really how it survived for so long, because AA needs Captain AAs and the crotchety old timers and, arrogant jerks like me to survive, for there to be debate and new ideas shared, but at the same time maintaining the traditions and the content of the book. And that's why it's been a rock solid community. And like I said, man, I still go. I still go to meetings. There are meetings here in St. Pete by the water that I still go to. Not enough, but I know it's a place where people are trying to live better lives. And that's who I hang out with now, man. I had to get rid of pretty much everyone in my old life. That was not easy for me, but I did it and it was worth it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So I just want to read a few more, man. It says, Dustin says, thank you for sharing, Dylan. That was awesome. And I needed this so much tonight. Can't thank you enough. We got Mona says, thank you, Dylan. Prayers coming your way. Terry, crap. I just came on. I forgot about it, but I'll look for the video. Hello from Canada and congratulations on your recovery. Tighten up, Terry. We got Melissa says, beautiful testimony. Thank you, Dylan. Sarah, connection is the hardest part for me, but I'm trying to change that about myself with the same energy I used to get high. And that, dude, if we put half the energy we use to get high into what we want to do now, I'm telling you right now, it can happen, because I put a lot of energy into getting high, like a lot, like up all night, 2 weeks straight, you know, just crazy, you know.
I think we just need to learn how to reconnect or even connect in the first place when we get here. You know what I mean? Even at a year sober, I was awkward as a mofo. I didn't want to let anybody in. I was still fearful of all those things. But the minute that I started to do that, things changed for me, man. You know, and I think what's so important is all the stuff you share, just like in little chapters, man, is like through all that crap, you've gained understanding from each and every one of those experiences, which has brought you to this point today. And that's, I mean, that's really my story. It took me, I was 14 years old in my first treatment center. I was my last one with you when I was 36.
Yeah.
So it's like I picked up some nuggets along the way. And then I personally, just like Justin did too, he had that moment where he said to himself, like, I'm sick and tired of this, man. I can't do it anymore. And then we become willing to do whatever.
Got tired,
man.
Rode that bitch till the wheels fell off. You know what I mean? Yep. Was on the freaking on the damn
axle.
Sparks coming out. You know? Yeah. Kayleen says, I was so used to being unhappy that now it's almost makes me feel uncomfortable when I feel happiness and when I'm laughing because I'm not used to being happy. It's sad, but I'm okay now. So I'll get better with feeling my feelings.
I still do that now, man.
Like everybody,
I'm still learning.
Yeah, we have to. It's almost like what is this foreign thing, you know? And we're trying to like stop it from happening, and like it's just let it be. It's okay to be happy. It's okay. You deserve it. You deserve to be happy, and it's okay. You know.
I think laughing. The ability to be able to laugh has kept me alive a lot longer than I should have been alive.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge, important thing in my life. It really is.
And the ability to laugh at yourself, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, like, where'd that come from? You know what I mean? Like those thoughts that come in and you're like, what, out of left field? And you're like,
I think of some of the stuff, just like even when I was sharing with Justin, Dylan, like when we were in treatment, and I would say this stuff, and I was hardcore back then. And Justin, Dylan was like, Jesus Christ, John.
Yeah, man. Like that made me clutch my pearls, and that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Just don't ever repeat that stuff, man, please.
So, recovery is for me to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, Terry says, Justin, you are also are passionate and put a lot of energy into this. You do great. Thank you. I do, I do what I can, It doesn't take as much energy as using, I'll tell you that. We got Steve says, love you guys. Recovery on the Square, June 4th. That's
Big
right.
Steve.
Hey, if you guys are in Ocala, if you guys are anywhere in the surrounding Ocala area, Ocala, Florida, if you don't know, they're having Recovery on the Square June 4th. They're putting it on. It's 0 Hour Life Recovery Centers. They're going to put on this cool event, man, Recovery on the Square, and we are going to be a part of it. The Hope Shot's going to be there representing. It's going to be super cool. We're super excited. Thank you, Steve, for reminding us and putting this out there. And that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you all for being here. If you guys don't know, we do this Sunday as well. Not the story sharing, but we do topics and we talk about our recovery. We talk about the solution, as much as we can. Sometimes, we get a little off in left field too, but we try to stick with the solutions. We share our recovery, and join us this Sunday, 8 p.m. right here live on the Hope Shot. We appreciate you guys, and make sure if you haven't shared, share it now. Somebody needs to
follow our YouTube.
Follow the YouTube. Subscribe. I'm going to put it out there into Facebook land about the YouTube. We got videos, man. I'm going to start putting some videos together. I haven't done it because you know what? I just don't have time. Life is busy, but I love video editing. That's one of my things I like to do, and I want to get things on there. So follow our YouTube, see some videos. We're going to be doing it soon. Thank you, Dylan, again. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Love you guys. Good night.
Good night.